so I'm going to let him lead us off today.
Welcome to my IEP re-eval meeting. I'm DJ, and I'd like to introduce my dad, Mark Pint, my grandma, Carol Patterson, and my little cousin, Chance Michael Groth.
We can just continue on.
How old's Jan?
3.
Cool. I'm Davy Hartman. I have DJ in reading and history.
I'm Kayla Wiedenbeck. I'm the speech language pathologist.
I'm Amanda Fig. I'm the school psychologist.
And I'm Deanna Langer, DJ's EBD teacher. So, and then I'm just going to hand it out, because this is his re-eval, his 3-year re-eval. We'll go through the re-eval first, and then we'll go right into his IEP after
Okay.
that. Okay.
All right.
So I'll let Amanda kind of take charge from there.
Okay. The first part of the re-eval report looks at previous evaluations. So I'm just going to kind of summarize what we know about his previous evaluations, just based on the information that we received from his last school. And if anything sounds off to you, you can let me know. Okay. DJ was initially evaluated by the School District of La Crosse in May of 2006. He qualified for special education programming and services in the areas of specific learning disability and speech or language impairment. In addition, he received occupational therapy and specially designed PE. DJ then moved to Colorado in June of 2006, where he continued to receive special education services. According to records, DJ was staffed in a self-contained classroom to address disruptive behavior, which was increasing in frequency and severity. DJ briefly moved to Littleton Public Schools in Wisconsin and was reevaluated. At that time, he qualified for speech and language. DJ returned to the School District of La Crosse in September of 2010. He continued to receive speech therapy and specific learning disabilities programming, with goals in the areas of language, math, and written expression. DJ moved to Colorado again in June 2011. He was reevaluated by Jefferson County School District in September 2012. It was determined that DJ no longer met criteria for a specific learning disability or speech or language impairment. At that time, he met criteria for an emotional behavior disability due to a need in the area of social emotional support needs with coping and peer relationships. So it was determined that DJ continued to need support in academic areas as well. Then recently in February, DJ moved back to the La Crosse School District, where he's been attending Logan Middle School. He received special education support through the EBD program and also a pull-out math program and speech and language consult. And this is his 3-year reevaluation. So we'll look to see if he continues to qualify for an emotional behavior disability.
Okay.
Did any of that sound way off? I know that was a lot of information.
Yeah, it's like, so much over the years and a lot of changes, but I think it summed it up very well, exactly his transition.
A lot of moving, but the 2010-2011 school year, DJ and his sister both asked to stay with me. In June of 2010, my husband passed away, who they were very close with as a foster dad and also adopted as a grandpa. And they wanted to stay with me for that year, so that is why the 2010-11 he was in La Crosse, and so was his sister. Mark gave me a guardianship of him. Coming back and forth like once a month to visit them, but
Yeah.
that's why they're here for that year.
Okay.
And now we're here for the duration, so
Right. Yeah. So we've enjoyed having DJ here.
thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about how you feel like things have been going since you moved to La Crosse, and maybe a little bit about DJ's behavior, what you feel like some of his strengths are, things like that.
I feel since moving to La Crosse, I had initially had concerns about moving DJ in the middle of the school year. I know that is typically a lot harder of a transition when you are in the middle of a curriculum, and I was concerned that his adjustment would be more difficult based on that. But what I've learned in talking with DJ and from what I'm kind of drawing, he has had very good support in his transition to Wisconsin. He has felt comfortable, of course, with his teachers, and he has spoken very highly of staff in getting the assistance and the help. DJ, I think, continues to still struggle with peer-to-peer interaction. I think that through the years he has developed more of a self-esteem for himself, but I feel that he still needs to always be mindful and to work on his interaction in developing relationships with his peers. I have, through the years, had many compliments with DJ on his respect for staff within the different schools that he has been involved with. He has had, of course, I think through the years there's been maybe an occasional, flare-up where there was something in the classroom. Usually it was addressed, and then behaviorals have taken a 360 within like the last 2 or 3 years. DJ is able to process a negative comment, or he's able to kind of process it and get past it so that he can continue on with his educational needs. And that was something that was very difficult for him before. If there was interaction negative in the classroom, it kind of halted his whole thinking process, and everything kind of came to a standstill, which made it really hard in his educational development. But I think he, the time now is, I see DJ being much more serious with wanting to do good in school. I think organization is a really big necessity for DJ, and from what I've gathered with DJ, he wants to succeed, and I see a very successful young man, in his shoes. He has been a great son, and I think that I'm very proud of him for his accomplishments. I think he has done a really, good job in overcoming many of his difficulties in learning.
Yeah. I have a little bit of information on academics here. Because he didn't come until February, he missed the deadline for our winter benchmark district assessments. And so we just recently started the winter or the spring assessments, and he was assessed in the area of reading fluency and found to be reading 118 words per minute, which is at the 10th percentile. Does that sound about right, Dee?
Yeah, it does. And then kind of looking at his other scores. And then we took the May's just this morning on fluency. And he scored a 14, and really the target is 27. But I think we do know that you can read fluently.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we do struggle a little bit more with the comprehension piece. If DJ is read to, he is more able to pull out the information, I think, because you can process it a little bit more, and we kind of stop and talk through things too, so that helps. So that's something we can add into his high school too, that he's able to have that pull on out and helping you read things. So.
And then the third quarter, he received A's and B's in almost all of his classes except for science. He had a C. His current grades are a little bit lower, A's and B's and a few more C's, and then an F in small business. I don't have access to all of that information, so you can shed a little bit more light about where his grades are at. Is he turning work in and things like that?
Yeah, and actually that small business class, that was the one that we had talked about on the phone before with some of the business aspects of doing interviewing. So what else did you do in there? I'm trying to think, like applications, creating little posters for businesses and such like that, right, with Ms. Heilman? And I'm not sure if it's the struggle, it seems like the morning, that first hour has been kind of a struggle in class for you. I'm not sure, Ms. Heilman came up today and kind of shared some things that went on down there. After the day goes on, then we seem to get a little bit more into our work at that point. So I don't know if you're feeling like a little overwhelmed in there. Coming in the middle, they had already, that was a class that was a little tougher because they built on things as they went from the beginning of the semester, so we missed out on maybe, a month of that class. So, that's one of those things too, and it was supposed to be on iTunes U as what she was doing it at one point, but I think they're just kind of doing things in class. But I tend to focus more on core classes with DJ because I feel that that's what we, like the reading and the math and science. So getting work in has been, we started out great, and I think just because things are a little bit more project-based right now, so it's a little bit more unstructured, that makes it a little bit tougher, doesn't it, just to know exactly what's due and when it's due. So I'm going to suggest next year, too, that we have like a planner for him.
Okay.
That he would, I know at one point you were signing a planner, but I think just in general, if he would know exactly what is due for each class and what is expected, that might help guide your organization too a little bit, okay? So we're working on things. We do know that May 26th is kind of our cutoff for grades to have all of our work in. And I can give you a list too to see. And he does homework, so that's right.
Yeah, I see him at night with that.
Yep.
I think the F has been concerning to him, that I said to him if he could work with Ms. Hyland, maybe he could at least pull a better grade than the F. I don't know what's coming up now before the end of the year, if there's an opportunity to raise that or something maybe he could do to improve on that. But the core classes are what I look at too, as well as math and history and those things. I think I have seen when he does the homework and some studying, for the testing and stuff, he is able to maintain the grade requirement for the class, which I think that's one of my big concerns with DJ for high school is just to make sure if you have a test and so many kids say, did you have homework tonight? No, I don't have any homework. We have a test tomorrow.
Yeah.
That is, there is still homework involved. What I explained to DJ, that there is homework involved, and it is to review the material for the test. So that's something for me that I could work on, with him before a test to try and, do studying and preparing. Knowing the material is important.
And I think just overall, talking about the reading and tying that in with the writing seems to be a little bit more of a struggle. And he's got great ideas. I think it's just hard to get them down on paper. And so you might benefit from just sitting with someone and being able to tell them what you want them to write, and then being able to kind of you could dictate that to them, and maybe getting all those ideas out. The iPad's another great opportunity for that because we have Siri on there, so he could literally read what he wants read into the iPad. So
that's kind of a program that he had in Colorado. He was it was a voice recognition program where it dealt a lot with like intonation, the strategic pausing when you're talking, and he would listen to the computer, and then it would let him record the same information over again, and then he could do playback and then compare the way that it was done from the speaker to the way that he said it. So I think that program was very helpful with DJ, and I know
that might even be tied into speech and language then with a program that they were maybe using.
Yes.
Was that with the speech and language?
It was.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the other area that he's struggled with a lot through the course of his education has been math.
Yes.
And that one has been ongoing, and I feel he's making some progress with the math, but I think it's always going to be an area that he will need extra assistance with.
Yes.
Do you think so?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Speaking of the math, and we did the Ames Web for that as well. And for computation, DJ scored a 0, and then our target would be 26. on the concepts and applications, he scored a 3, and our 14 is our target. So it's like, he has the processing skills there, and I think if we can support him with some of the basic, like making sure he has access to a calculator for some of the basic skills, I think that we'll make better progress. We're working on an intervention program right now, Moby Max, and we are currently at a 3.8 grade level. I'd like to see that, bumped up to, at least, the 5th or 6th grade level. But I think that's something we can continue on at the high school, but yet he'll be in a transitional type math where he will be doing the normal curriculum with support.
With support,
Yeah.
okay.
So he'll have a teacher, a team teacher that's out in the classroom with him. But I'll also look in to see if there's something we can do where he has, it'd be nice to have 2, like an intervention math as well,
Okay.
to help support that, so.
Will he have like the regular standard, well, this was a long time ago when I went to high school, but it was like biology and chemistry or physics or those types. Will DJ in high school, will he take those types of classes?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And a lot of his classes, because he has special education services, they'll team teach some of those classes, and we'll make
Okay.
sure that he's in the appropriate classes.
Okay.
So.
I wouldn't want you to miss out on the fun of having to take those classes.
There's fun classes you get to take too, though.
Yeah.
So.
Danny, can we hear from you next, what you're seeing in the classroom?
Yeah, I have you for reading and for history, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you said matches everything that I see. He does very well with staff relationships, very respectful, responds very well to feedback, suggestions for improvement, suggestions for change. The distractions, I think, for DJ come with the peers. He's much more motivated and much more organized than many of Dee's other students that she works with. It seems he has his materials, he comes prepared, he's done his homework. But the transition time coming into the class when there's kids trickling in after lunch or after that, sometimes they can set DJ off a little bit. And he can get frustrated with them or easily angered at times with them. But as far as academic work, homework, doing what he's supposed to be doing most of the time, he does that. Dee helps redirect on occasion when there's some student-to-student issues. What else?
I'm just saying, sometimes it's more of the redirection too for remaining focused.
Yes.
And it's hard to sit through in 45 minutes of just being able to sit and focus on if there's the lesson, or even just working on if you're given independent work time. So we probably need to just come up with some better strategies to help you recognize when that's happening to you so that you can help correct yourself, right?
I think some
Maybe
of
at that.
Some of that too is looking for friends.
Looking
Trying
for
to
friends.
figure out,
Yeah.
who's going to be a good friend, like Taiying in class. You like working by him, he likes working by you, but trying to figure out who else is out there that would be a good friend for you. Has
And I
been
think
part
it's
of it.
important to always, to pair him up with a really strong role model. And then for you to even take on that leadership role of just coming in and knowing where to sit, like who would be the best person to sit by, knowing who might get you off task and who is going to keep you maybe on task and help you out a little bit too. Okay? So those are some skills you can use over at the high school as well.
In high school is a big time for friendship, you know what I mean? That's what I was explaining to DJ. That's a time to pick really good friends, but that's a time where your life becomes very social at that point. You get involved in things with, kids at, whether it be a sport or an activity, an after-school club or something of that nature. But those are the most, when I explained to him, the most formative years with peers, and you want to make good choices. And, and it is important to have friends in high school, good friends. And we're trying to kind of branch out ways for him to meet people right now. And he's a server for our church. He's a mass server on Saturday, and he seems to be picking up doing well. He likes that. He's met Michael Rojo and some friends through serving. And he's going to be joining the SAL, the Sons of American. He's going to join that. So another avenue to meet some people.
Are you
But-
playing football in the fall, DJ?
I'm doing somehow be trying out for football.
Oh, good. It's really nice to enter high school having 3 weeks or more of practice under your belt and getting to know some kids before school starts?
Mr. Wopat, I think, is the, he's a coach or was?
He's actually moving.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. DJ, and I know one thing we talked about is a Phi Ed class for him over the summer, and that would take a place of a credit next year for his freshman year. And I thought that could be a good opportunity because he would be able to use that time, on something maybe to help him with his math or his language, once that credit was satisfied. So he definitely
I know that's
expressed.
a really, really popular class to take, so I think there's usually a lottery, so I'm not sure he'd get into that. But even if he doesn't, there's a program called Bigger, Faster, Stronger at the high school.
Okay.
Where kids go and work out. I don't know all the details, but you don't have to go every day. You just sort of sign up so they're aware of you, and then you meet kids and you hang out, and they're lifting
Okay.
weights
That
and
would be good.
Cool.
running, and a
That'd be
lot of the
awesome.
athletes do that, and so it's just kind of a good way to stay busy and stay healthy over the summer. So I would look into that.
He's kind of been keeping an ear out for show choir too, because they thought they did.
They already did audition.
Did
they do
they?
auditions?
Were they really early?
They were like a couple weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
But talk to Mrs. Taylor, because she said that, especially for boys, that they might have another audition in the fall for like transfer students, but they're always looking for boys, so
Okay,
if you talk to her, she might know the inside scoop about that.
okay.
We'll look her up and see, maybe during the study hall we can run up and talk to her, okay?
Because I know he said he'd be really interested. He did choir, sixth grade, he was in choir in middle school, and he really liked it, so that's why
Yeah.
I think show choir would be really good for him. And then, do you know what the hours would be for like the Phi Ed, if he did the Phi Ed requirement for
Is
some?
it 8 to noon? That's what I was thinking.
8 to noon?
8 to noon.
Is it Monday through Thursday or Friday? Or?
It used to be Thursday.
It used
I
to be
don't know
Thursday, but then
anymore.
they kind of went to Friday and shortened up. It's 18 days. I do know
Okay,
that.
okay,
Yeah, and you can't miss any, they're right in a row.
Yeah.
okay. We could definitely look into that, because I think that
They
would.
do a lot of cool, fun stuff, so I think you'd really.
I think you would like that, and then we can check into the football.
And so like she said, there's probably a ton of kids that signed up, and it's a lottery, so they're just gonna randomly pick,
Okay.
names out, so, but it's better to have our name in there.
Right.
For a chance to take that class, so, and if not, we can always do that.
DJ is currently receiving consult speech and language services, so Kayla, if you just want to talk about what your observations have been.
For the most part, DJ, how much do you see me? Not very much at all, because Ms. Langer doesn't ever have questions, and so for the most part, I am not hearing people having trouble understanding you, or I think maybe in the past, maybe 2 weeks, we've been having a rough time of it, I don't know. It sounds like you had some strategies for stuttering. Is that what your speech therapist helped you with? Do you remember what some of those strategies were?
Like he said, he said stop and think about what you're about to say and speak.
Mm-hmm. And then probably there's some couple breathing, like make sure you take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
Or if there's a word that you're going to struggle with, and like think of a different way to start your sentence. Do you stutter where you repeat words or like parts of words, or do you get stuck on a sound like that? Do you remember?
Sometimes I get stuck on the same word.
Stuck on the same, like repeating the word?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you know what to do if that happens? Have you noticed that you're stuttering recently? Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it bothering you? Okay, because I don't hear it that much when you talk to me, and so I just have to wait until other people tell me about it. I don't know that you need to see a speech therapist anymore. I think if you know your strategies, you're okay, but I need you to tell me what you think. Do you think you know your strategies and you'll be okay? Are you nervous that at high school stuttering will come back and you want to have someone to talk to?
I do know my strategies that I need to use whenever I start stuttering.
Yeah, you feeling okay about that?
Oh yeah.
So do you think if you just had like a teacher that knows you really well, they could just say, are you using your strategies, would that be enough, do you think?
It would.
Okay, so I think that for the most part, he hasn't really needed me, and I don't know that he needs speech therapy going forward. So I'm be planning to dismiss speech language consult, so he wouldn't have the speech therapist on his IEP, if you're comfortable with that.
I think, I noticed the stuttering when he's upset. That's when I
What I was just gonna
noticed.
say is, I would say in the past 2 weeks, this is the first I've really noticed it, because we had a little incident the other day, and I think he was so upset, he just really struggled to get a sentence out when we were talking with Mr. Wolpat that day.
Yeah.
And that's when I first was like, well, that's definitely not the DJ that I'm working with right now, so I knew that you were struggling with it. But I think when you're anxious, when you're upset, if we can just do like she said, if you can take some deep breaths and kind of stop and think, and then kind of calmly get that out, I think that will help.
Mhm. And sometimes he gets excited, his sentences will run together.
Yeah, we noticed that.
So, so sometimes I have to say, DJ, just take a breath and, say your sentence and then kind of pause between, because he'll get really excited about something and he can tell that whole story with one breath sometimes.
We're glad he gets excited though.
So,
Yeah.
so I think speech and language may be something that's still a little bit hard for you, but I don't think you need speech therapy. Are people okay with that?
I'm going to drop that, okay.
Dee did some behavior writing skills with teachers. Dee did some behavior writing skills with teachers, Daniel, and also you. So she's going to share that information now.
Let's see if I hope my internet's working right there. Let's see on here. I'm so glad we have this printed off. All right, so we actually had, Dad, you filled out a form. DJ also did a form. And then, okay,
I have to go back to class. So.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
that.
We have Mrs. Hartman, Ms. Farrell, Mrs. Rumpel. So basically, 3 of his core teachers along with 2 encore teachers, just to see if there's a difference between structured and unstructured classes. Really, overall, he only scored in the, let me just find my clinically significant range for depression, okay? And that was only with 2 people out of all of the raters, okay? Otherwise, we really just kind of fall into the at-risk areas, meaning that, we definitely still want, qualifying for the EBD portion, we still want that to be in place for you to make sure that we don't struggle with any of these areas, okay? So we'll keep monitoring and keep using the strategies that we do to make sure that that we're not at risk.
Okay.
The areas that were at risk, and I should have my glasses on, but here we go. Hyperactivity, okay, attention problems, which coincide with what we know in the classroom. Withdrawal. Sometimes I think when we are having some peer issues too, we tend to just go shut ourselves down rather than communicating and asking for help and talking. And then it came under school problems, which would just mean those peer interactions, the social pieces. So we'll keep working on those things, okay? So with that said, then we want to look at the criteria for continuing eligibility for EBD. The student exhibits social, emotional, behavioral functioning so that departs from generally accepted age-appropriate, ethnic, and cultural norms, that it adversely affects the child in at least one of the areas, okay? We have 6 areas here. We have academic progress, and I think because of behaviors, we do see that academic regression, or I shouldn't say regression, but kind of plateauing at times, okay? Social relationships, and we've definitely had some of those peer relationships going on right now that we're kind of struggling through, and I can share some more of that with you after the meeting, so.
Okay.
Personal adjustment, I would say sometimes we talked about kind of that self-confidence level, and that would fall into there, and then classroom adjustment too, and that just means more so when things are happening in the classroom, how is our, the anxiety level of dealing with those things, and I think organizations, sometimes that can be frustrating for us in the classroom. So that was definitely a yes. Behaviors are severe, chronic, and frequent, and that would be a yes. Behaviors occur at school and at least one other setting. And I think after talking with you about some things that have happened at home, as well as just some of those follow-through things that you're having to give redirections frequently at home, things like that would be qualify as well. And then another area student displays any of the following, and we have, after looking through this, the inability to develop or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationships, okay? The inappropriate affective or behavior response to normal situations, so just having that that self-control, and we've talked about this in that RTI and things like that, and we're making good progress on those areas. Pervasive unhappiness, depression, or anxiety. And I think we definitely see the anxiety kind of leads to that depression piece of it too. Kind of that sad. We talked about that the other day, Mr. Wolcott's office. Okay. Physical symptoms, pains. He does not complain about those. The inability to learn, that's unexplained. We don't see that. Extreme withdrawal from social interactions. He actually does the socializing. It's just that confrontation piece that we deal with, and there's no aggressiveness. And then for other inappropriate behaviors that are so different from children of similar age, ability, or educational experiences, there's behaviors that we're seeing that an 8th grader may not portray, like just like the poking around with other kids and just the mimicking or the mocking, which I think that's when his peers kind of get a little annoyed, is probably the best way to say it, and then it's hard for DJ to kind of come back around. And these are tough things for you to hear sometimes, I know, but we're going to make it through, okay? All right, and so the IP has done a full evaluation, and we do feel that he still continues to qualify for the EDD services.
Okay.
So since he qualifies, we're going to go in and talk about his goals and programming for the next school year.
Okay.
We're going to let Kayla go.
Thank you,
because
Kayla.
she's not going to be on the IEP next year. So I'll let you finish talking about it.
Overall goal, let's see here, I just want to pull these back up. Here we go. So we're just going to set goals that will help him progress. What he's working on, okay? All right, and then we talked about testing. Now this year he's not going to be doing the state testing for like we did the Smarter Balance test, which you just completed. Okay, so that won't be on this IEP, but you will do the Aspire, which is something that's done at the high school towards the ACT for the ACT. Okay. And so we don't have OT. Will he continue transportation for next year?
Yes.
For at the high school, he'll still need. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And with that said, we have the MA, the Medicaid form here, and this just states that he's receiving that service from us. I'll have to print off this new one here because he's no longer going to have the speech and language.
Okay.
But if you can just go ahead and sign that he gets the transportation. And the IEP will also reflect that he has math pull out with me for the rest of this year, and the dates will be on there that it ends as of June 4th.
Okay.
And then he will be able to participate, obviously, in all the regular education classes and extracurricular. I encourage you to, I think he'd be great out in football field out there, or any other sports, baseball. There's a lot of options out there.
That's a good way to get to meet a good group of kids and interact on. I think on a team it's important. I think that's what DJ really would do well at, is being a part of a team. I think that would be, because when you're part of a team, everybody pulls together.
Right. Yep,
So.
and continue working on those social skills. That's a great opportunity for that. So, do you have any questions about this IEP overall, or?
No, I think it's right on track with where we need to be, for him, and he's getting the help and support. I think he feels comfortable. There's always a lot to learn, in the next coming years, but I think with the support in place and the IEP, I feel confident he's going to be able to successfully transition. And
Just from reading his background information and then seeing where he's at right now, you can tell how far he's come, and that things are just getting better for him. So
that's what I'm hoping, that these are the last years of school, so I want them to be ones that you remember, with a very good, fond memory.
Yes. Now, speaking of going to high school, this is also his transition IEP. So we look at using his goals for, like, following through with a task. I would think that would be a big goal for him overall, looking at going on to college, that kind of ties in with an organization piece and just following through with the homework completion. We did, I'm trying to think, it was kind of like an inventory and just kind of looked at all of his interests. And I don't think he really knew where we were going, but there was like 16 boxes that we had to answer. And he came up with, his top goal was looking into law and public safety. So we kind of talked about what jobs might fall under that. And at first he was kind of interested in, like, you know, police officer, but then forensics is like, oh, that's really what I would like to do when I'm older. So that was probably on the top of his list. And he also mentioned he was interested in the arts and songwriting, which I thought was kind of he loves music. You know that. So that would be kind of another job that you might. And so we talked then too about if you're going to be in forensics or police officer, that would entail some schooling too. And it just kind of depends on what level we want to go to, but whether it's a 2-year or 4-year college. I don't know if you've had this conversation with him at home.
Not yet.
Not yet?
Really.
Yeah, he's like, I haven't really even thought about that. Well, we have to get thinking here, so. So that'll be on his transition piece.
Okay.
And then, like I said, we'll tie in the goals that help lead him into going to college. Oh my gosh, 4 years of high school, and that's college.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
his time's coming fast.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Do you have any questions, DJ, or?
I do not have any questions.
Okay, so good. All right, well then what we'll be doing is I'll be piecing this all together.
Okay.
And once I have this written, then I will share it with Amanda Begg, and she will be reviewing that, and then you'll be sent a copy.
Perfect.
So he's got a lot of good things coming up,
That
so.
sounds like it.
Yeah.
He's telling me about his guest speaker yesterday for the
Timothy
Holocaust.
Scott, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, how someone can mesmerize kids for 6 hours straight sitting in the auditorium and you don't hear a peep out of them. He's good.
I said that. I said, DJ, how long was that for, like an hour or whatever? He's like, no, Dad,
Oh,
he
all
was there
day.
for like all day. And I said, really?
Yeah.
And he told me, you know, he was talking about it last night and had quite a few things he was telling me about it. So
It was pretty
I think he got
intense, yeah.
quite a bit out of it. He likes
So-
school. I see DJ liking school more, and I think that's helping him. You know, before he was not real accepting of it. When he was littler, he was harder for him to transition. But now he's liking school more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too. I see some really good days, and then there's some days that we kind of just, I don't know, kind of struggle a little bit, and seek adults out though. That's what we're here for, is to help you.
Mhm.
Okay? And get away from those situations, like remove yourself rather than getting involved, you know. That'll help you out a lot. Okay? All right. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you
in.
very
I
much for
appreciate
coming.
it.
Thank you. Thanks, Ray. It was
Nice
nice
to
to
see
see
you
you again.
again.
Have a good
Little
summer.
Angel, yes, thank
Nice
you.
to see
It was
you
nice
again.
to.
Thank you for all your help and
Absolutely.
support.
He sees DJ quite a bit.